Good day and welcome to the test security training for 4K, 5K readiness. I'm Megan Walters-Branham.
And I'm Tanya Keinert, your Test Security Program Manager.
So the purpose of today's training is to provide key elements of test security and will prevent and reduce the likelihood of test security violations while administering my IGDs, Teaching Strategies Gold, and the KRA assessments.
Test security is the same for all assessments. The same South Carolina test security laws and state board regulations that govern other state assessments also govern 4K and 5K readiness assessments. Don't forget, test security applies and is important to all state mandated assessments.
So by law, a readiness assessment is an assessment used to analyze students' competency in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. What it is not is an assessment used to determine placement.
So let's talk about what the law says about test security. South Carolina legislature provides laws and it empowers state board regulations that govern test security. And your time as you prepare for testing, please check out our state laws. The law is found in SC Code Annotated Section 59-1-445. That section addresses violations of mandatory test security regulations and procedures and penalties, as well as investigations. And the state board regulations can be found at 59-1-447. That section requires the State Board of Education to establish detailed and descriptive mandatory test security procedures. It lets you know a little bit more about specifically what can and cannot be done, or what should and should not be done during state testing.
So there is a law related to readiness assessments. This law has been in place since 2015. The major components are to understand that all 4K and 5K students are administered readiness assessments. This includes all of our students in special population, self-contained classrooms, charter programs, Montessori programs. Basically, if a child is in a publicly funded program, they are going to be assessed. Additionally, we are going to ensure that you are assessing them using a board-approved assessment, and that is for 5K, the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment, also known as the KRA. And at the 4K level, your district is either administering My IGDs or Teaching Strategies Gold. These assessments are administered in the first 45 days, so that first quarter of your school year. However, we also require that 4K testing is administered in the last 45 days of the school year. Just to be sure you understand, this is 100% compliancy. This means that districts cannot, or IEP teams cannot choose to opt out for either of these testings. There are specific options in place that will assist to make sure that we're meeting students who need accommodations, and failure to comply to this law would absolutely result in testing violations. Additionally, each assessment with a date of the assessment must be provided to, the results must be provided to the district. So as long as you are using the dashboard where the data is entered, then that data comes right on over to the state, and there is no drop in the assessment content and data coming over to the state. So make sure you're entering all of your information by the end of your testing period.
So Megan, may I ask what happens if that data is not entered in?
Yes, if data is not entered in, it does become a test security violation. We will follow up with that. Your DTC will have to submit paperwork indicating that the data was not entered, and you will be issued a violation for that. Once the window is closed, the system is locked. There is no unlock and go back and put it back in. And if you did assess, you have your results on paper, but you did not put it in your dashboard, it's the same as if you did not give the assessment at all. You cannot provide us your handwritten scores in place of that. Additionally, you should be advised that part of the law requires that results be shared with parents. So we have a variety of ways in which that can be done. KRA provides an individual score report, and although a paper copy is printed for by the state and delivered to districts. Those do not come until December or January. And a PDF, though, is available immediately upon completion of the assessment, and it is also available in 7 languages. So if you are supporting your multilingual student, you can pull it down in one of those additional languages and provide it to parents, those results during parent conference time, which is much more relevant than waiting till January to provide those results. My IGDs, we have a caregiver report that can be downloaded. We have that linked on the state website. There also is other reports embedded in the system. Unfortunately, it is only available in English at this time. And then Teaching Strategies Gold has a report card and a development and learning report that are available in Smart Start, can be downloaded, easy to use, easy to communicate with parents, but again, also only available in English.
So I hate to play devil's advocate, but I am going to. So what if I were a 4K, 5K instructor and forgot to put my information in the system? Can I share my handwritten scores with parents?
You could still share those results, and you should share those results. However, because it's not in the dashboard, it's not officially documented that way.
Okay. Thank you. So what are the goals of test security? Everything that we do has a goal. Our first one is to protect the integrity of assessments. We want to make sure that the results we get are valid and reliable. When we talk about validity and reliability, we want to make sure that the students are actually showing us what they know. They should not get any assistance from the teachers or their peers or anything else. We want them to be able to look at the information and just give us their true baseline of where they're starting. Our second goal is ensuring fairness for all students. When we're talking about that, we would like for each student to have the same opportunity as one another. We want them to have the same quiet environment, the same lighting. All conditions should be uniform and equal with everyone. We also need to maintain confidentiality. When we say that, we're talking about students should not have exposure to test content to study or prepare before the assessment is given.
And also, we want to be keeping our testing kits secure and put away.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the next point.
Yes, exactly. So our 4-5K key elements of test security are secure materials, maintaining the chain of custody, preventing unauthorized access, and reporting irregularities immediately. So with our secure materials, when the kids come into our schools, they should be kept locked away. They should not be left out on the cafeteria in a big school for various teachers or school testing coordinators to come and pick them up, nor should they be left out on a counter or desk space in a classroom when they are not being used. So whenever test kits are not actively being used to assess students, they should be locked away. Our chain of custody ensures that no one handles test kits except the person it is checked out to. So when kids come in, the school test coordinator should do an inventory of exactly what they have. And as the teachers come and collect their kits, they should be checked out to them. A record should be kept of who the kits are being given to, so that if anything goes awry, we'll know who to go back to. And the kit should be returned to the STC immediately upon completing the test. There's no keeping them over the summer or over the entire year. When your 45-day window is closed, your test kits should be returned to a school test coordinator. It is also important to ensure that access is only provided to adults that are directly involved with testing. 4K, 5K classes are so cute. The kids are so fun. Sometimes those teachers tend to have a little bit more of an open door with guests coming in and out. We should not have that first grade, second grade, or even an admin coming in and viewing the contents of those test kits if they are not administering an assessment. Those are secure materials. And it's important. If there's a violation, it has to be reported. Don't wait to share it with the STC at the end of the window or at the end of the week. The sooner the STC or school test coordinator is informed of the incident, the better. And also remember, it is a violation to not report a violation.
So we have this great image here that kind of helps us to remember our chain of custody and securing our documents. Now, your district can choose to give you the kit and have you keep it for the entire 45-day window. Or you may have another policy in place where you're returning them at the end of the week or even at the end of each day. That again is your district's choice on how they want the kits to be collected. Under no circumstances should kits ever leave the school building. Unless you are in a situation where you are assessing a student who is homebound, and that is a very specific, unique situation, and the kit should be going to the student's home with you and then securely locked somewhere and then returned to the STC upon immediate completion of that test. Don't just take it home and leave it on your desk. Don't just let it hang out in your car. Again, that's only for homebound situations, and those are very, very few in our 4K and 5K settings. Otherwise, those test kits need to be locked up, and when they are not in the STC's possession, then they are locked up in your classroom. Excuse me, if you're not actively testing. In the 4K situation with my IGDs, your district may be one that is opting to test throughout the entire year. The winter window is our optional window. The state does not require that, but some districts do utilize that testing. That is then the case that the STC can issue the kit at the beginning of the school year, and you're going to return it at the end of the school year because you're actively testing throughout the whole year. However, that test also is not being administered the whole 9 weeks or the whole 45 days necessarily. So it could be checked in and out throughout the year. But we want to make sure that even if the kit is not in the STC's vault in that secure location, it is securely locked in your classroom anytime you are not actively testing. And remember, you may have up to 2 kits. You could have a literacy kit and a numeracy kit, which means both kits need to be locked up.
So let's think about your testing environment for your kiddos, because like we said before, every student deserves a fair chance, a quiet environment, and they want to be able to show what they know with the least amount of distractions. That includes classroom visitors. Maybe if the school or district mascot is in your building that day, them coming into your classroom or outside the hall of your classroom could be a really big distraction to them. That is why we now provide do not disturb signs to put on your door. So the entire window, if you are testing students, you need to keep that sign on your door to perhaps slow down or halt visitors from coming in to let them know that testing is possibly going on in your classroom. If you are in a private corner with a kidney table or a little cubby area, put another sign there just to let people know in that area that you are testing that is not an appropriate time for them to come in and speak to you. They may not come in and take pictures of you testing because the students deserve the same amount of privacy and quietness. You may have to take your kids outside to a different classroom or the media center or another location to ensure that they get the quietness and privacy that they deserve. And if that is the case, please do so, but make sure you put a testing sign wherever you're going. Think about the lighting and the temperature. Some teachers like to do assessments during quiet time or nap time. If that is the case, think about the cues that the lighting or lack thereof sends our kiddos. If they become acclimated to when the lights go out, it's time to calm down and perhaps take a nap, that may not be the best time to test certain students. But if you have that student who is rambunctious all day and never takes a nap or never has that quiet time, that may be the prime time for them to go ahead and take their assessment, and maybe another environment is great for them. So be cognizant of while the temperature and the lighting is good for the ones that are resting, it may not be as good for a testing student.
I'm just going to add on to that, the signage. The other thing that's really great with using that sign, especially if you're setting off into the corner of your classroom or maybe in a closet, what that does is indicates to the other little friends that this sign has gone up, and they may not be able to read the words that say do not disturb, but they know they can see that sign. You can print it in any color you want, and it's saying, you know, this is my time one-on-one with this friend, and when the sign comes up and you're over here, it's the same thing. And it's just an indicator so that you're not also being constantly disrupted by all the other little friends that might be in the room while you're trying to work one-on-one to get the correct data for the student that you are working with. Oops, excuse me.
Let's just remind you that personal electronics during state testing is prohibited. I know you have young ones, but if they have a cell phone or an electronic watch for whatever reason or earbuds, they may not access them or have them during testing. The same with teachers. If you do have yours and your district allows you to keep them on your person, You should not be actively texting people, reading text on social media while you are assessing your kiddos. That's a distraction from you. And think about this time as a great opportunity for you to give your student that undivided of one-on-one attention. It may be the only time that they have an adult all to themselves. So think about that as a great opportunity to develop relationships and build some bridges. So do not use your electronics or become distracted with the electronics while you are assessing. On the other hand, Megan, I believe they can use them for some assessments to keep data in it.
Right. So first I'm going to say, do not use your device for your timer when you're giving my IGDs numeracy, which is the only assessment that uses a timer. Your kit should come with a preset timer in it. If your kit is missing a timer, speak to your STC. If the timer in your kit's battery is dead, speak to your STC. If you do not have another digital device connected timer, because we don't want that you have a timer going on your phone, you're working through documenting, and then you get a text and it pops over, or you have a preset alarm. I'm the queen of preset alarms, and I may have a timer going, and then my preset alarm is going to knock that off. And now I've messed up the student's scores because of all the things that are happening in my phone. So don't use your phone or your watch as a timer. Use a separate timer altogether. And then now, there is the possibility to be manually entering the scores into the dashboard with KRA and with my IGDs while you're testing. However, honestly, I think the best thing you can do with students is to be just having it right on the hard copy paper form. KRA has a printable score sheet that once you have filled it all out, you can use the QR code to upload the whole form. You don't have to be in the spreadsheet itself while you're actively testing to enter. It will pull it straight in. It takes the device away. It means that there's no little kid over there like wondering like, well, what's on the computer? What did you put in there? Same with my IGDs. If you just have a list, sort of tick off each item and with the piece of paper behind your booklet, then you don't have a device where, again, they're trying to figure out, well, what did you just type in there? They might still have questions about what you wrote on the piece of paper, but we've eliminated the device. We've eliminated all of the possible issues of things being up that shouldn't be and any other distractions. And you are there with the kit in front of the child doing exactly what you need. If you are giving KRA and you're using the KRA app to administer to the student, that's different. The device is essentially in a lockdown mode going into the app to take those questions. And they're doing it without a one-on-one interaction. That way, they're interacting with the device in the same way that they might when you give your formative assessment like MAP or iReady or whatnot. That, again, is different because you're in a locked down browser. All right, let's talk secure. So we've got a list of different things up here, and we're going to kind of read through them, think about them, and then we're going to share whether or not they are secure or not secure, because we've mentioned a lot about secure materials, mostly testing kits. So I'm going to give you that one right off the bat. Test kits. What is it?
I'd say secure.
Yes. Okay, so we know test kits are secure. KRA, my IGDs have kits. Gold does not have kits. Okay, that's the clear differentiation there. All right, but documentation samples, what do we think about those?
I'm thinking probably unsecure because aren't those public facing?
Oh,
well.
So when we're talking about documentation samples, especially, and I'm going to talk about gold because a lot of that is documentation. So you're looking at potentially the work that the student's doing, the photograph you took of the child. The photograph itself is not secure, but the minute you write the paragraph or the description about it, or you score it, it does become secure. So if you have any kind of notes that you're about to upload into the dashboard, you need to keep those notes separate, because also you don't want a sticky note to go flying somewhere and someone picks up your own notes about it. I mean, you might not have scored it, but that's your documentation. That's what you're keeping to track a student. Your score sheets, those paper score sheets I just talked about in the last slide, those are documentation samples. You are writing down what how students did. Those are secure. You need to keep those away and not have them just be out, because you don't want anyone to walk by and see how you rated a student. Okay. All right. Next one, answer sheets.
That has to be secure.
Yes. Our answer sheets are secure. So again, That could be your rating sheet that you've put it down. If you are doing KRA and you're doing the performance items, you've got the question, you've got the student, and you're rating which level they fell on that specific objective. The minute you mark that sheet, one single student on that sheet, it is now secure. The first time you printed it, it does have the items on it. So actually that still makes it secure. The minute you print that sheet, it's got questions on it. It is secure. Oh, I clicked too soon. Sorry. Pencils.
Well, aren't they in our test kit? So wouldn't they be secure?
So pencils would not be secure unless for some reason you were writing questions on the side of them. But no, pencils are not viewed as secure because they're just items we're using to deliver the assessment. Record sheets.
Okay, I'm gonna think those are definitely secure.
Yes. And then what about our do not disturb signs?
So I was tricked with the pencils because they came in your test kit. So, but they're not secure. So I'm thinking the do not disturb signs may not be secure either.
Correct. They are not secure. And part of, if you think about it this way, you're going to put that do not disturb sign up on your door. So now you're exposing it to the world. That makes it not secure. So it's not saying that it's not a good thing. It's just saying it is not something that we have to hide from all the eyes. In fact, we want it out on the public. So it might be in your testing kit. If you have an STC who has printed them for you and slid them into your kits or asked you to have it, it is associated with testing, but it is not secure in the sense of you have to hide it away. We want it publicly out there so that we can keep all those other things listed here at secure.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about best practices. If you are a DTC or an STC, here are some suggestions we have just to kind of support that window, supporting our teachers. So we want to be checking that dashboard. You want to be making any changes manually if students are missing, and really that may only be with the gold platform. My IGDs, you cannot make any student changes, but you should be aware if there are problems. If someone is reporting to you that a student is missing, you should go in and look and see if you also see them missing on your end. You want to be monitoring the progress of data entry throughout your school or your district, and that our dashboards are set up so that you get live updates pretty regularly. I mean, it might take a teacher might be entering a single item right then and you're not going to see it change on your end, but it's constantly updating. So you're able to check every single day how it's going. You should be following up with schools and teachers, specifically if you're seeing that the window is coming to an end and you're not seeing a lot of progress. You should run some type of completion report. My suggestion is day 30, day 35, and your 43rd day at minimum. That's sort of the way that I think about it, because by day 30, you still have about 15 days to get a lot of work done. Day 35, you've had essentially day 30, you've checked in with teachers, you're following up with schools, they've had another week to get done. And day 43, I mean, you're down to the wire. You got 2 days. So like, this is that, woo. And then I didn't put it on here, but of course, day 45, you're running that report. And I would run that report first thing in the morning, and I would run it again an hour before the school day closes. And then I'd run it again at the end of the day, because I'm going to make sure that everything is cleared out and everyone is completed. And then you want to collect and verify that your testing kits are secure when the teachers are not actively testing. So we talked about this earlier, that you might, whatever your district's policy in terms of collection it could be a daily thing, could be a weekly thing, could be at the end of the window. But when you get those kits back, especially at the end of the window, you are doing a check. Are all of the items back in this bucket? KRA, you have pieces. So you want to make sure that any pieces you might have are back in that bucket. That kit is full and complete.
From a test security perspective, also with verifying the testing kits, it'll be a great idea to walk through periodically during the window that's open. Don't wait until day 30 or even maybe day 20. Go ahead and walk through. Let your teachers know that you're in the habit of going around and checking to make sure that their kits are complete and that they are keeping them locked away when they're not using them. That would be a good reminder for them.
Okay. And now for our test administrators, for our teachers, start early. If your district is using the staggered start, this is actually the only use for that staggered start week is to administer readiness assessments. This is actually stated in the memo that came out from the Office of Instructional Support that was in April, but it's part of state law. Like we grant you the staggered start, you have those extra 5 days so that you can be using that time to administer these assessments. Get a lot of that done so that when you get to day 6 of the academic calendar, your students are coming in and you're able to really jump into the instructional time. And you've learned a lot in those first 5 days too. But again, that's if your district has opted into the staggered start. You want to check your materials. So when you get that kit, before you even leave that STC's office, open that kit, check your materials, make sure everything is there that should be there. Because what you don't want to do is be down the other side of it. You open your kit because for the first time and you're in front of a student, and now you notice you're missing something really important and you've lost that valuable time because you have to stop testing right now to go figure out what's wrong with the kit. You want to secure those test materials, again, locked up in your classroom or turned back into the STC when you're not actively testing, and never, ever, ever leaving the building. I don't know how, like, no reason to leave the building. Ask for help. If you get into testing, it's your first year testing, and you realize like you started giving the items and you're just not feeling great about either how you're scoring the items or how it's going, stop, go ask for help. Your districts have, your school STCs may have been trained, or your district may have a trainer that can come and help you, support you, give you feedback as you kind of work through it. They should not be giving the assessment, of course, for you, but they can help you and to get you to be able to feel like, yes, I'm giving this assessment with fidelity. Before you've even ever given that assessment, though, you should have gone to some training. We have trainings that we offered through the summer. There's Gold has on-demand options, both both my IDs and KRA have the on-demand. In fact, you shouldn't be assessing at all if you have not been to training. And then you want to double check your own dashboard. You want to be looking that all your students are there. If they are not, you need to alert your STC immediately. And if they continue to not be there, you need to keep asking questions. Why hasn't this student shown up? If you're giving my IGDs, some of it has to do with the EdFi integration. So if a student continues to be missing, please keep letting them know, because then they can go back to the DTC, or you can reach out to your DTC and say, hey, this student is missing. I don't know why. And then they can do what they need on their end to figure out what's going on with the dashboard. Same with KRA. Let them know if a student is missing. Same with Gold. If a student has not been loaded into your system, you cannot load the student yourself in any of those situations. You need to communicate that a student is missing, because you don't want to be on day 46 and you've had this child this whole time and now you can't assess them. And that's a testing violation because they've been there and they should be have been tested. Additionally, if you think you put your scores in and you didn't mark them complete, you didn't save them, you hopefully have that paper document, but you don't want to be on day 46 or heaven forbid when the whole system locks in November and now you were like, no, but I put them in. I put them in and never went back and looked because I assessed in August during that staggered start and you never went back after that. And you went to print that PDF to go to parent conference and now nothing is there and the system is locked. Well, you have that paper, great, you can communicate with parents, but the data is not in the dashboard, therefore it's not reported to the state, therefore it's a testing violation. Check your dashboard. You are the protector of your content that you're assessing. And then we've just highlighted 2 things here. Do not be afraid to speak up and reach out. The earlier, the better. The first time you see something that doesn't seem right, tell somebody, okay? Not everything results in a violation. Sometimes it's just a clerical error. So a student is missing. You've alerted your STC. You've alerted your DTC, okay? That happened on week 1. It's now week 7. That student is still missing. You've alerted them again. You're not in a violation at this point. You've alerted, you're continuing to communicate that because you're going to make sure that we don't end up with a violation on the other end. You're letting them know. And you also can still test that student in the meantime. You just can't get them into the dashboard. Keep communicating. Keep asking the questions. a lot of it can be fixed. That window of 45 days is a huge window. So a lot of things can get fixed before it becomes violations.
And guys, we cannot help you if we don't know that you need help. One of our biggest jobs, and I'd say for me, my main job is to offer support for you all. So if Megan does not know that you don't have students that are in the dashboard, or that you're having issues with students, or you have the wrong students in the dashboard, if you don't reach out, then we don't know to help you. So saying, oh, I didn't know, is not going to excuse the mistake that has happened. So that's why it's important for you to do your due diligence and reach out to get assistance whenever you think you may need it.
And you, teachers, you can reach out to me too. Don't be afraid to come to me. Just because you've had a problem, I'm going to help you to facilitate the right conversations, whether it is that I need to reach out to the STC or the DTC in your district to help us to figure out where the issue is. I'm here to support that as well. That's part of my job. So please come to me if you've got questions about any of it. All right, so now we're going to give you a couple examples of violations. Some of these you may think that totally didn't happen. Every one of these is a true example of a violation. We will not tell you the district. We will not tell you the teacher's name or the STC or DTC's name. None of that, all of that is kept. But these are true, real examples of violations that have happened in our state.
And we want you to see them to know that everybody's human. Everybody has that day. But the more prepared you are, the more you communicate, then that eliminates some things from happening. We know there's always Murphy's Law, but we do try to eliminate all of those situations. So let's look at this violation example. The scores for a 4K program were not entered into the dashboard because the staff did not have access to the dashboard, and the DTC did not contact anyone to gain that access. All of the results were kept on paper, but no student scores were populated in the dashboard because no inquiries were made to SCDE on how to gain access. And that was just shared with you on what you should do, when you should do it, how often to check it.
So we're going to pause here for a moment. Since you're watching this as a recording, you all can pause this. If have a little moment to talk together, think about what are the pieces that really made this a violation and what could have been done to prevent the violation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so hopefully you've unpaused it now and you're ready to share. Or you've already had a chance to share. So we're just going to talk about a little bit about this. So the first part about it was, even though they tested, they had it on paper, it wasn't in the dashboard. Not in the dashboard equals not reported to the state equals automatic violation. Nobody communicated it to the DTC, so the DTC didn't know that there was a problem. Therefore, the DTC couldn't report it to us, so we could not fix it before the window was closed and the system was locked. There was a breakdown of communication that led to several violations because it wasn't just one person.
That's right. And we don't want to put anybody in a bad situation. So it is your responsibility to check and to inform your DTC. On the other hand, it is also the DTC's responsibility to check as well.
So the next one, a 4K or a 5K teacher was administering a readiness assessment to a student in her class. Her principal and district superintendent entered the classroom. While in the room, the district superintendent snapped a picture of the testing student and showed the student booklet and test items. The picture was posted to Twitter. Of course, it's not called Twitter anymore, but it was posted to Twitter for about 3 hours before it was removed. Pause it here, have a moment to talk and decide what was the problems. Okay, so let's think about what was the issues. The first problem, there was no sign indicating that this teacher was engaged in testing that was secure material. So when the principal and the superintendent approached the teacher, they assumed that they were just doing any kind of small group instruction. It's the beginning of the year, we're taking pictures, we're so proud of our students, we're putting it up. No indication that this was something that was secure. The teacher also did not speak up. Of course, principal and superintendent, they're her bosses, may not want to say anything to them, but you are the protector of what is happening. You are the protector of the testing environment. It is your zone. So go to bat, put up those dukes and say, excuse me, I'm going to have to ask you not to interrupt. We're in the middle of testing right now. On the other side of it, though, the principal and the superintendent should have been aware that testing was happening, whether a sign was up or not, because they should know that KRA or my IGDs takes place in the first 45 days, and they should not have taken pictures and posted it without maybe reviewing and knowing, okay, what exactly is this? Because they just knew that something great was happening. They didn't know exactly what it was. So we always want to vet whatever we're going to put on social media, especially in the beginning of the year because of testing.
And we implore you all to please be advocates for yourself. Please let your STCs know. Even if you were a brand new teacher, felt too uncomfortable to say something, immediately contact your STC so that the STC can have that conversation with the principal and the district superintendent so that everyone will be covered.
Here's another one. A 4K or 5K teacher needed more time to complete their data entry and took home their record sheets inside their testing kit. When it was time to return the materials at the end of the school year, the teacher had to go home to retrieve the kit. We're going to pause it here. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to think about it. The first problem is that the kit left the building.
Didn't you say something about we couldn't take it out of the building?
Correct. Only if you have a homebound student. And again, you're bringing those materials right back to the building. This kit should have never stepped foot into this teacher's home. When I was in the classroom, a lot of times I brought the work I didn't get done grading home with me. I was going to do it over the weekend. This is one of those things that you don't do over the weekend. You figure out how to do it during your planning. You stay late after school one day if you have to. Your data entry, those record sheets, that kit, all of that is secure and cannot leave the barrier of the building. Our buildings all have metal detectors and secure now. Consider those like the opposite. As I'm going back through it out the door, those kits, it won't go off, of course, but think of those as like they will go off and say your kits can't leave the building.
That's right.
So in and of itself, and then because we test in the first 45 days, that kit sat at home for however long, like the whole rest of the school year. And it wasn't until at the end of the school year they decided to collect the kits. They were doing the end of the year checklist, and then the teacher was like, oh, my kit's at home. And that's where we got into a problem. So that's why we're really, really pushing this year. Collect those kits at the end of the 45 days, especially KRA, because you won't touch them again. If you're doing the other 45 days, the spring one, or even the winter, then you could collect them, do a materials inventory, and then reissue them when you're ready for your teachers to give the test again. But never, ever, ever. Are they allowed to leave the buildings?
No, absolutely not.
Don't leave the buildings with these kids.
Life gets in the way at home, just like it gets in the way at school. So the chances are, if you haven't had an opportunity to do it between 7 and 3 or 7 and 3:30, you probably are going to be too tired to do it at home.
Yeah. Okay. And then one more violation for us to share.
A teacher noticed that 2 students are missing from their class roster and the dashboard. Because they completed testing on paper and it was early in the administration window, they decided to wait and check back at a later time to enter student results. They did not alert the STC or the DTC that the students were missing, and they forgot to go back and enter the results at the end of the window. When the ISRs were delivered in January, no reports were provided for the students.
Okay, we're going to pause here for a moment. All right. Hopefully you've had a chance to talk about this. So in this kind of situation, it was probably they administered the whole assessment in the first few weeks. They were like, whoo, we're done. Yes, I know I have this 1 or 2 children I need to check in. And then that year got started and you forgot. In your brain, you were like, oh, yep, I'm done testing. Never went back, never even said anything. And because they didn't say anything, the STC and DTC didn't even know that they were missing. So when the other side of it is when they run the completion report, if a child's missing from the dashboard, it doesn't let them know because it only reads the children that are in the dashboard having results. So first problem, child missing. No one was notified. Second problem, since the child was never put into the system, no one was able to see it on the other side that they didn't have data entered to that child. And so even though they did administer that assessment, they didn't, it doesn't count in the eyes of the state. Now, they didn't discover this till January, which raises the question, were the results communicated to the parent when potentially when parent conference was taking on? Because we're supposed to provide in writing a communication to parents. So there's several pieces here that led to now it's the middle of the year and students don't have any results.
So while you're testing, we suggest that you write a note on your write yourself a sticky note and put on there, oh, I'm missing Megan and Tanya from my roster. That way you can remember to let your STC and DTC know that they need to be added to your roster.
Mm-hmm. And I'll remind you, especially with KRA and with Gold, as soon as a student is marked complete, you can generate the report. So you mark them complete, go ahead and generate that report. You don't have to print that PDF, but start yourself a file on your desktop that is where you've placed that PDF. So if nothing else, you can show that PDF at conference and you pulled it down, so you can pull it down and check at conferences. Because a lot of times our conferences are actually happening right at the end of that 45th window before the system is fully locked for the state. So there's some ways we could have fixed this well before January. So we're just going to ask you to pause and ponder. Has your mindset about test security changed? If so, how? What changes will you make regarding assessments in your classroom? Where will you store your secure materials? And when do you enter your assessment data? So go ahead and pause us, either jot down some answers or talk to the people around you. All right, welcome back. So thank you for being a part of today's training. Please document our contact information here. You can reach out to either one of us about 4K, 5K readiness assessment, test security. We work as a team. So if you reach out to me, but the question feels more test security and I can't answer it, I'll forward it to Tanya and vice versa. If she feels, that's not really a security, it's more of a management, she'll send it along to me, but we work together. So please make sure that you have our contact details, and we are here to support you through this entire window. Those QR codes are going to link you straight to the websites that are linked here. So, and we're also available by phone. So you see our phone numbers are here too. So we're here for you. Let's make this a great test administration window. Hope you have a phenomenal school year, and we thank you for all that you do to support South Carolina students.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great one.